The massive human warship dropped out of hyperspace like a dark storm cloud. Admiral Kang Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the Soul's Fury, watching the Galactic Council station grow larger on the main screen. The station was huge, spinning slowly, in space like a metal flower with dozens of arms reaching out in all directions. "Sir, we're getting scanning beams from the station," reported Lieutenant Han Ji-woo from her sensor station. "They seem very interested in our weapons." Kang Tae-ho smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Let them scan. They should know what they're dealing with." The Soul's Fury was not built for exploration or science. Every line of the ship screamed war. Heavy armor plates covered the hull like scales on a dragon. Weapon ports dotted the surface like angry eyes. Behind the flagship, 12 more human ships moved in perfect formation. Each one was armed and ready for battle. On the station, Ambassador Yu Hai-jin stood in the observation deck, watching the human fleet approach. He had been waiting for this moment for 3 months. The Galactic Council had invited humanity to send representatives for peaceful talks. But Yu Hai-jin knew the truth. These would not be peaceful talks. "Ambassador," said his aide, a young woman named Lee Min-jung. "The station commander wants to speak with you. He seems worried about the human ships." Yu Hai-jin nodded. "Tell him I'll be right there. And Min-jung? Make sure our communication device is ready. We may need to send messages quickly." The station's command center was full of aliens. Tall, insect-like creatures with 4 arms moved around checking displays. Floating crystal beings pulsed with different colors as they communicated. In the center of it all stood Commander Zektor, a Vextar with dark green skin and large compound eyes. "Ambassador Yu," Zektor said, his voice coming through a translation device. "Your ships are heavily armed. This is supposed to be a diplomatic meeting." "Yes," Yu Hai-jin replied calmly. "It is." "Then why do your ships look like they're preparing for war?" Yu Hai-jin looked directly at the alien commander. "Because we've learned that in this galaxy, diplomacy works better when you have big guns. On the Soul's Fury, Captain Park Min-ho was studying his sensor readings. His ship, the destroyer Busan Rising, was smaller than the flagship, but packed with the most advanced scanning equipment humanity could build. What he was seeing made his blood run cold. "Admiral," Park Min-ho said over the communication channel, "you need to see this." The data appeared on Kang Tae-ho's screen. Hidden behind the peaceful-looking space station was a massive weapons grid. Hundreds of weapon platforms, floated in space, invisible to normal sensors. They were all pointed at the area where visiting ships would park. "How many?" Kang Tae-ho asked quietly. "At least 300 platforms, sir. Each one has enough firepower to destroy a city. They're using some kind of stealth technology, but our new sensors can see through it." Kang Tae-ho felt anger building in his chest. The Galactic Council had invited humanity to talks, while preparing to destroy them if they didn't agree to whatever the Council wanted. It was exactly what Earth's intelligence services had predicted. Back on the station, more alien officials were gathering in the main conference room. Counselor Veltara, the chief representative of the Vextar Empire, studied reports about the human ships. The numbers worried her. "They have weapons we've never seen before," reported her military advisor. "Energy signatures that don't match anything in our databases, and their armor, it's incredibly thick. All species try to impress us with their best ships," Veltara said. "It doesn't matter. Once they see our power, they always submit. But, Counselor, these humans seem different. Our intelligence reports say they've been building warships for 50 years. Only warships. No exploration vessels, no science ships, no colony transports. Just weapons of war." Veltara's mandibles clicked together, a sign of annoyance. "Every species thinks they're special. The humans will learn their place, just like all the others." On his flagship, Admiral Kang Tae-ho was reading the latest intelligence report from Earth. Director Choi Yun-hee had sent it just before the fleet left human space. The report contained everything humanity had learned about the Galactic Council over the past 50 years. The Council called itself a peaceful organization. They said they helped primitive species join the galactic community. They offered technology, trade, and protection. What they didn't mention was what happened to species that joined them. 47 species had accepted the Council's help over the past 3,000 years. 47 species had been slowly absorbed, their populations moved to cultural preservation centers, their governments dissolved, their independence erased. Not one of those species still existed as a free people. "Sir," came Lieutenant Han Ji-woo's voice, "we're receiving a communication from the station. They want us to power down our weapons and follow their escort ships to a parking area." Kang Tae-ho looked at the tactical display. The parking area was right in the middle of the hidden weapons grid. If the human ships went there, they would be surrounded and helpless. "Send a reply," Kang Tae-ho said. "Tell them we prefer to stay. Where we are, our weapons will remain powered, and we will escort ourselves." On the station, Commander Zektor received the human response and felt his stomach turn cold. In 3,000 years, no visiting species had ever refused to follow docking procedures. It simply wasn't done. "They're refusing?" Counselor Veltera said when Zektor reported to her. "That's impossible. All species follow our protocols." "Not these humans, Counselor. Their admiral says they will maintain weapons power and choose their own position." Veltara stood up, her 4 arms gesturing angrily. "This is unacceptable. Contact our fleet. Tell them to move into position around the human ships. Show them that resistance is futile." But when the Council fleet began to move, something unexpected happened. The human ships didn't panic or try to run. Instead, they moved into a battle formation that looked like it had been practiced 1,000 times. Each ship found its position with precision that impressed even their enemies. Captain Park Min-ho watched the alien ships surround them and felt his heart rate increase. But it wasn't fear he felt. It was excitement. Finally, after 50 years of preparation, humanity was about to show the galaxy what they were really made of. "Admiral," he reported, 63 Council ships moving to intercept. Mix of cruisers and destroyers. Their weapons are charging." "Understood," Kang Tae-ho replied. "All ships, battle stations, but do not fire unless fired upon. We want them to make the first move." Ambassador Yu Hai-jin felt the station shake slightly as more ships moved into position. Through the observation window, he could see the Council fleet forming a circle around the human ships. It looked like humanity was trapped. Lee Min-jung moved closer to him. "Ambassador, should we be worried?" Yu Hai-jin smiled and checked his communication device one more time. "Not at all, Min-jung. In fact, I think the Council should be the ones who are worried. But we're outnumbered 5-1. "Are we?" Yu Hai-jin pressed a button on his device. A message went out on a frequency only human ships could detect. "Let's see about that." The message was simple. Phase 1 complete. Execute Phase 2. Indeed. The darkness of space, far beyond the range of alien sensors, something began to stir. Ships that had been waiting in hyperspace started to move. Not dozens of ships, not even hundreds. 300 human warships received the signal and began their approach to Nexus Prime. The largest military force humanity had ever assembled was about to announce their arrival to the galaxy. Admiral Kang Tae-ho watched his tactical display as new contacts began appearing at the edge of sensor range. Soon, the Council would learn that the 13 ships they could see were just the beginning. "All ships," he said calmly into his communication system. "Welcome to galactic politics. Let's show them how humans negotiate." Counselor Veltara walked through the crystal corridors of her home ship, the Divine Purpose. The massive vessel orbited the Vextar homeworld, but her mind was focused on the human problem at Nexus Prime. She had ruled the Galactic Council for over 200 years, and no species had ever challenged their authority like this. "Tell me about the humans again," she said to her aide, a younger Vextar named Kolmar. Kolmar activated a holographic display. "They appeared in our region of space 50 years ago. Small scout ships at first, then larger vessels. They never asked for contact, they just started exploring and building. And we ignored them? At first, yes. They seemed like every other primitive species. But then something changed. They stopped sending exploration ships and started building warships. Only warships." Veltara studied the images of human vessels. Each one looked dangerous, built for fighting rather than discovery. What did our analysts think? They assumed the humans were having wars with other species in their region. It seemed normal. Young species often fight each other before they mature. But they weren't fighting other species, were they? Colmar's mandibles clicked nervously. No, Counselor. Our latest intelligence reports say they were fighting each other. The humans have been in constant warfare for their entire history. They've never known peace. On the human research ship Inch and Ghost, Dr. Lee So-young was studying intercepted, alien communications. Her team had been monitoring Council transmissions for months, learning their languages and understanding their culture. What they found was disturbing. Captain Kim, she called to the ship's commander. You need to see this. Captain Kim Do-hyun floated over to her workstation. The Incheon Ghost was a stealth vessel built for spying and gathering information. It had been watching the Council for 2 years without being detected. What did you find, Doctor? Dr. Lee So-young pointed to her screen. Communications between Council worlds about something called the Integration Protocol. Look at these species names. Kim Do-hyun read the list. 47 different species names, each with dates going back thousands of years. What happened to them? That's what's scary. According to Council records, they all successfully integrated into galactic society. But look at this. She brought up another screen showing population records. Every species on the list started with billions of members. Over time, their numbers dropped steadily until they reached 0. They're all gone, Kim Do-hyun whispered. Every single species that joined the Council eventually disappeared. It's not war, Dr. Lee So-young explained. It's systematic extinction. The Council moves them to cultural preservation areas while they adapt to galactic life. Then slowly, over decades, the populations just vanish. Kim Do-hyun felt sick. How many beings are we talking about? Trillions. The Council has been committing genocide for 3,000 years, and they call it diplomacy. On the Morden homeworld, a living crystal city pulsed with worried light. The Mordan were one of the Council's founding members, beings of pure energy living in crystal bodies. Elder Shal Noon was reviewing reports from Nexus Prime with growing concern. Unlike the Vextar, the Mordan could feel emotions through electromagnetic fields. When they looked at the human ships, they felt something that terrified them. The humans weren't afraid. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They were angry. The emotional resonance is unlike anything we've encountered, Shal Noon pulsed to the other elders. These beings radiate controlled fury. They came here knowing exactly what we are. That's impossible, pulsed Elder Cathara. No primitive species understands the integration protocol. We've hidden it perfectly for millennia. These humans are not primitive. Look at their technology. Look at their tactics. They've been preparing for this meeting for decades. Young Mordan crystals throughout the city flickered with worry. The integration protocol had brought peace to the galaxy by eliminating troublesome species before they could cause problems. But what if a species was too dangerous to integrate? Back on Nexus Prime, Ambassador Yu Hai-jin was sitting in a conference room with 12 alien representatives. Each one was trying to look friendly while discussing humanity's future in the galaxy. "We're so pleased to finally meet your species," said Counselor Veltara through her communication device. "The galaxy has room for all peaceful beings." Peaceful, Yu Hai-jin repeated. That's an interesting word choice. We believe in harmony between species. When young civilizations join us, we help them overcome their violent tendencies. We provide guidance and support until they can take their place in galactic society. Yu Hai-jin nodded politely. And what happened to the Kelthani people? They joined you about 400 years ago. The room went silent. Several aliens exchanged glances. Counselor Veltara's compound eyes focused on the human ambassador. The Kelthani successfully integrated. They live peaceful lives in our cultural preservation centers. All 12 billion of them? Well, not all chose to relocate. Some preferred to maintain their traditional ways on remote worlds. Yu Hai-jin pulled out a datapad. According to your own records, the Kelthani population is currently listed as 0. Would you like to explain that? The tension in the room increased dramatically. No species had ever questioned the integration protocols so directly. No one had ever asked for detailed population records. "Ambassador," said another council member, "a floating energy being called Reshitar. Perhaps we should focus on your species' future rather than dwelling on the past." "The past is very important," Yuhai Jin replied. It helps us understand what kind of future you're offering. On the Soul's Fury, Admiral Kang Tae-ho was receiving reports from all over Council space. The Human Intelligence Network had been active for years, placing spy satellites and listening posts throughout the galaxy. The picture they painted was clear. Sir, reported Communications Officer Bae Hyo-jin, we're receiving data from our deep space monitors, massive fleet movements throughout Council space. They're mobilizing everything they have. How long before they arrive? 3 days, maybe 4. But sir, it's not just military ships. They're moving what look like prison transports and processing vessels. Kang Tae-ho understood immediately. The Council wasn't just preparing for war, they were preparing for another integration. They planned to defeat humanity's fleet and then begin the slow process of eliminating the human species. Any word from the other human colonies? All 12 colony worlds report ready for evacuation if necessary. But Admiral, Director Choi's latest message says they don't think running is the answer anymore. Kang Tae-ho read the message from Earth's intelligence director. After 50 years of watching the galaxy, humanity had reached a conclusion. The Council's power came from their reputation for being unstoppable. No species had ever successfully resisted them. If humanity could break that reputation, it might inspire other species to fight back. Sir, called Lieutenant Han Ji-woo, the Council fleet is tightening their formation around us. I'm also detecting some kind of scanning beam focused on our hull. What are they scanning for? Unknown, but it's very intensive. They're trying to penetrate our armor and analyze our internal systems. Captain Park Min-ho's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, my sensors are picking up something interesting. The Council ships have very powerful weapons, but their defenses are designed for intimidation, not actual combat. Explain. Their shields are built to deflect light weapons, and their armor is meant to look impressive, but against serious firepower, they're actually quite vulnerable. I don't think they've fought a real war in centuries. Kang Tae-ho smiled grimly. The Council had become used to peaceful species that would surrender at the first show of force. They had forgotten how to fight against someone who intended to fight back. All ships maintain positions but begin deep scans of Council vessels. I want to know everything about their capabilities. Dr. Lee So-young was still analyzing Council communications when she discovered something that changed everything. In the deepest archives of Council databases, she found records of the very first species to join them. The Anthari had been the Council's founding members alongside the Vextar and Mordan. Captain, she called urgently. Look at this. The Anthari were the original Council species. They created the whole organization. So according to these records, they were integrated just like everyone else. The Council killed their own founding members when they became inconvenient. Kim Do-hyun stared at the data. They eliminate everyone eventually, even their own allies. It gets worse. Look at the Mordan population records. They're declining too. Slowly, but it's happening. The Vextar are using the integration protocol on everyone, including their own partners. This information changed everything. The Council wasn't just eliminating primitive species. They were working toward a galaxy controlled entirely by one species, the Vextar. Every other form of life was eventually scheduled for extinction. Ambassador Yuhai Jin received the intelligence update through his secure communication device. He looked around the conference room at the alien representatives, knowing now that most of their species were already scheduled to die. Counselor Veltara, he said quietly, I have a message for you from Earth. Yes? We know what you are. We know what you've done. And we're here to make sure you never do. Admiral Kang Tae-ho stood in the war room of the Soul's Fury, surrounded by holographic displays showing every human ship in the fleet. His senior officers sat around a curved table, their faces serious in the blue light of the tactical screens. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, it's time to tell you why we're really here. Commander Shin Jae-won, captain of the heavy cruiser Daegu Thunder, leaned forward. Sir, I thought this was a diplomatic mission. That's what the Council thinks. But diplomacy only works when both sides want to find a solution. The Council doesn't negotiate, they eliminate. Kang Tae-ho activated a holographic display showing 50 years of intelligence data. Images of destroyed worlds, empty cities, and extinct species filled the air around the table. Earth's intelligence services have been watching the galaxy for 5 decades. We've monitored every species that made contact with the Council. We've tracked their populations, their movements, their final messages. The pattern is always the same. Lieutenant Commander Nam Sung-min, the fleet's intelligence officer, stood up to address the group. First contact leads to an invitation to join Galactic Society. The species accepts, thinking they're getting help and protection. Then comes gradual relocation to cultural centers while they adapt to advanced civilization. And then, asked Captain Park Min-ho, then they disappear. Every single one of them. 47 species over 3,000 years. Trillions of beings, all gone. The room was silent except for the humming of the ship's engines. Finally, Commander Shin Jae-won spoke. So this isn't a diplomatic mission at all. No, Admiral Kong, Tae-ho said firmly. This is a declaration of war. We're here to tell the Council that their reign of genocide is over. On Earth, Director Choi Yun-hee sat in the underground command center beneath Seoul. The massive facility had been built specifically to coordinate humanity's response to the galactic threat. Dozens of analysts worked at computer stations, monitoring communications from across known space. Status report? She called out. Ma'am, the Admiral's fleet is in position at Nexus Prime. All Council forces are moving to contain them, just as we predicted. Good. What about the other fleets? Fleet Beta is holding position near the Vextar homeworld. Fleet Gamma is watching the Mordan system. All hidden fleets report ready for operation. Director Choi Ayun-hee had spent 30 years planning this moment. Humanity had learned early that the galaxy was not a safe place for free species. Instead of waiting to be eliminated, they had decided to strike first. Send the activation signal to all fleets. Phase 3 begins now. Back on the Souls, Fury, Chief Engineer Bae Hyo-jin was explaining humanity's secret weapon to the assembled officers. For the past 10 years, we've been placing jamming satellites throughout Council space. Tiny devices, almost impossible to detect, positioned near every major military installation and communication relay. She brought up a star map showing thousands of small red dots scattered across Council territory. When we activate them, every Council ship, station, and defense platform will lose communication with their command centers. They'll be fighting blind and deaf. How did we get so many satellites into position without being detected? Asked Captain Park Min-ho. Trade ships, Bae Hyo-jin smiled. For 20 years, human merchant vessels have been traveling through Council space. Every time they docked at a station or orbited a planet, they left behind a few small gifts. Admiral Kang Tae-ho nodded approvingly. The Council sees trade as proof that a species is peaceful. They never imagined we were using it to prepare for war. Lieutenant Commander Nam Sung-min pulled up intelligence reports on Council military capabilities. Our analysis shows that the Council hasn't fought a real war in over 1,000 years. Their tactics are designed for intimidation, not actual combat. Explain. They rely on overwhelming numbers and superior technology to make enemies surrender before fighting begins. Their ships have powerful weapons but weak defenses. Their crews are trained for patrol duty, not battle. And their strategy? Surround the enemy fleet, demand surrender, then destroy anyone who refuses. It's worked for centuries because no species has ever had enough ships to fight back effectively. Captain Kim Do-hyun's voice came through the communication system from the stealth ship Incheon Ghost. Admiral, we've detected the approach of the main Council fleet. Over 400 ships, led by the Vextar Dreadnought Divine Purpose. How long until they arrive? 18 hours. Admiral Kang Tae-ho looked around the room at his officers. Then we have 18 hours to prepare for the largest space battle in galactic history. On the Council station, Ambassador Yu Hai-jin was no longer in the conference room. He had been moved to what the aliens called comfortable quarters, but which looked very much like a prison cell. His aide, Lee Min-jung, was with him, both of them waiting for whatever came next. Ambassador, Min-jung said quietly, do you really think our fleet can win? The Council has thousands of ships. Numbers aren't everything, Yu Hai-jin replied. The Council has been using the same tactics for 3,000 years because they've always worked. But humanity learned warfare fighting other humans. We know how to adapt. Through the small window of their cell, they could see Council ships moving into formation around the human fleet. It looked hopeless, but Yu Hai-jin knew something the aliens didn't. The 13 human ships they could see were just the beginning. In hyperspace, 300 human warships waited for the signal to attack. Each one was equipped with weapons that the Council had never seen before. Humanity had spent 50 years studying alien technology and building counters to every advantage the Council possessed. Captain Park Min-ho was reviewing the tactical situation with his crew on the destroyer Busan Rising. The Council is positioning their ships exactly as we predicted. They're treating this like a police action, not a military operation. Sir, called his weapons officer, Lieutenant Ryu Jae-sung, their formation puts all of their heavy ships in the front and their support vessels in the rear. It's a standard intimidation pattern. Perfect. When our reinforcements arrive, the Council fleet will be completely out of position for a real battle. On the heavy cruiser Daegu Thunder, Commander Shin Jae-won was preparing his crew for what was coming. Listen carefully, he told them over the ship's communication system. In a few hours, we're going to be fighting for the survival of our species and every free being in the galaxy. The Council thinks we're just another primitive species that will surrender when faced with superior numbers. They're about to learn that humans don't surrender. We fight. His crew responded with determination. They had trained their entire careers for this moment. Every human ship in the fleet was crewed by volunteers who understood what they were fighting. For deep in the Soul's Fury's computer core, artificial intelligence systems were analyzing every aspect of the Council fleet. Human AI technology was far more advanced than anything the aliens possessed, giving them a crucial advantage in tactical planning. Admiral, reported the ship's AI coordinator, Lieutenant Park Soo-jin, our battle computers have identified critical weaknesses in the Council formation. They're using a command structure that assumes their enemies will be disorganized and panicked. What does that mean for us? If we can disrupt their command ship, the entire fleet will lose coordination. They don't have backup command systems because they've never needed them. Admiral Kang Tae-ho smiled. The Council's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. They had been so successful for so long that they had become overconfident and inflexible. On the Vextar homeworld, military commanders were studying reports about the human fleet with growing concern. General Kolvesh, Supreme Commander of Council forces, was particularly troubled by what he was seeing. These human ships don't match any known design patterns, he told his staff. Their energy signatures suggest weapons we've never encountered. Sir, reported one of his analysts, their formation suggests they're not planning to surrender or retreat. They're positioning for a fight. That's impossible. No species fights the Council. It's suicide. General, what if they don't know it's suicide? What if they actually think they can win? The idea was so absurd that Kolvesh almost dismissed it immediately. But something about the human ships bothered him. They moved with confidence, not fear. Their weapons were powered and ready, not in a defensive posture. Double our fleet strength. At Nexus Prime, he ordered. If these humans want to fight, we'll show them why resistance is futile. But as his orders went out across Council space, something strange began happening. Human jamming satellites that had been dormant for years suddenly activated. Communication networks that had operated flawlessly for centuries began experiencing mysterious failures. On distant worlds, species that had been oppressed by the Council for generations received new broadcasts. The signals came from human ships carrying a simple message. The Council can be beaten. We will show you how. Admiral Kang Tae-ho received confirmation that all systems were ready. The jamming network was active. The hidden fleets were in position. Humanity's allies among the oppressed species were prepared to act. All ships, he broadcast to his fleet. This is Admiral Kang. In 1 hour, we will show the galaxy that the age of Council domination is over. Remember, we're not just fighting for humanity. The main conference chamber of Nexus Prime had been designed to impress visiting species. The ceiling rose 50 meters high, covered in holographic displays showing the peaceful worlds of the Council. Floating platforms allowed different types of beings to participate in meetings regardless of their physical needs. Ambassador Yu Haijin sat in the center of it all, no longer in restraints, but clearly not free to leave. Around him, 12 Council representatives formed a circle, each one representing a different member species. But Yu Haijin knew the truth now. Only the Vextar really mattered. The others were just waiting their turn to be eliminated. Counselor. Veltara rose from her platform, her forearms spread wide in what was supposed to be a gesture of welcome. Ambassador Yu, we have brought you here to discuss your species' future in our galactic community. Our future, Yu Haijin repeated calmly. You mean our extinction. The chamber went silent. Several alien representatives shifted nervously. This was not how these meetings usually went. I'm afraid I don't understand, Veltara said. But her mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of stress among her species. Yu Haijin stood up and activated a small device he had been hiding in his sleeve. Holographic displays filled the air around him, showing population records, ship movements, and classified council documents. The Kelthani people, 12 billion beings, joined the council 400 years ago. Current population, 0. The Zelani Federation, 8 billion beings, joined 600 years ago. Current population, 0. The Marathi Empire, 15 billion beings, joined 900 years ago. Current population, 0. With each name, more data appeared. 47 species, all extinct, all officially listed as successfully integrated into council society. Stop. This immediately, Veltara demanded. You have no right to access classified council records. We've been monitoring your communications for 50 years, Yu Haijin said simply. We know what you are. You're not a council. You're not a peaceful organization. You're a systematic extinction machine. The Mordan representative, a floating crystal being named Shal Noon, pulsed with worried light. These records are taken out of context. The integration process is complex, and sometimes individuals choose to relocate to other dimensions of existence. Other dimensions? Yu Haijin laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Is that what you call mass murder now? Another representative, a gas-based life form called Reshatar, spoke through a translation device. Ambassador, your species is young and doesn't understand galactic politics. We are offering you guidance and protection. Protection from what? From yourselves. Young species always destroy themselves through warfare and violence. We prevent that by providing peaceful alternatives. Yu Haijin looked around the chamber. Peaceful alternatives like what happened to the Anthari. Every alien in the room froze. The Anthari were never mentioned in council meetings. They were the founding species that had been eliminated when they became inconvenient to Vextar expansion. You don't know that name, Veltara said, her voice filled with threat. We know everything, Yu Haijin replied. We know the Anthari created the council with you as partners. We know they began questioning the integration process when they realized what it really meant, and we know you eliminated them just like you eliminate everyone else. Veltara's compound eyes fixed on the human ambassador. For 3,000 years, no species had ever discovered the truth about the council's origins. The Anthari had been erased so completely that even their name was forbidden. How? She whispered. Because we're not like the species you usually encounter, Yu Haijin said. We didn't come here seeking your approval or your technology. We came here to tell you that your genocide stops now. On the bridge of the Soul's Fury, Admiral Kang Tae-ho was watching the tactical display as more council ships arrived. The alien fleet now numbered over 600 vessels, surrounding the small human formation like sharks circling prey. Sir, reported Lieutenant Han Ji-woo, the council fleet is moving into attack formation. They're charging weapons. Any word from the ambassador? He's beginning the ultimatum speech now, sir. Kang Tae-ho nodded. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The council thought they had trapped a small human fleet. They had no idea what was really about to happen. Captain Park Min-ho's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, my sensors are detecting massive energy buildup in the council ships. They're preparing to demonstrate their firepower. Let them, Kang Tae-ho replied. The bigger the demonstration, the more shocked they'll be when it doesn't work. Core. In the conference chamber, Councillor Veltara had decided that subtlety was no longer possible. Ambassador Yu, your species has two choices. You can accept council guidance and join galactic civilization peacefully, or you can be forcibly integrated for your own protection. And if we refuse both options, then you will be quarantined in your own solar system until you see reason. No species has ever successfully resisted council authority. Yu Haijin smiled. No species has ever tried. They all believed your lies about peaceful integration. But we know what integration really means. It means survival, Veltara said, angrily. Without our guidance, young species destroy themselves through war and violence. We save them from their own nature. By killing them all. By eliminating their destructive tendencies and preserving their valuable qualities. Their valuable qualities? You mean their technology and resources? The chamber erupted in angry alien voices. Several representatives were demanding that the human be removed immediately. But Veltara held up a hand for silence. Ambassador, you clearly don't understand the situation. Your fleet is surrounded by superior forces. Your species is alone in a hostile galaxy. Resistance will only lead to unnecessary suffering. Yu Heijin checked his communication device. A small light was blinking, indicating that Phase 4 had begun. Counselor Veltara, before you make any threats, I think you should contact your fleet commander. Why? Because in about 30 seconds, your entire military command structure is going to go dark. Throughout Council space, thousands of tiny satellites that had been dormant for years suddenly activated. They had been placed by human trade ships over 2 decades, positioned near every major military installation, communication relay, and command center in the galaxy. The jamming effect was immediate and total. Council ships found themselves cut off from their headquarters. Military bases lost contact with their fleets. The carefully coordinated Council military machine suddenly became a collection of isolated units with no way to communicate with each other. On the Vextar Dreadnought Divine Purpose, Admiral Theklar was studying reports from Nexus Prime when every communication system aboard his ship went silent. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Sir, we've lost contact with Fleet Command. We're also losing contact with our own ships. Some kind of massive jamming field has appeared throughout the system. That's impossible. No single ship could generate that much interference. It's not coming from a single ship, sir. Our sensors detect jamming sources throughout Council space. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands." Admiral Theklar felt cold fear creeping through his body. In 3,000 years of Council dominance, nothing like this had ever happened. Their enemies always fought with primitive weapons and simple tactics. They never had the technology for coordinated electronic warfare. Back on Nexus Prime, Counselor Veltara was receiving similar reports. "All of our ships have lost contact with command authority. How is this possible?" "It's possible," Yu Heijin said calmly, "because we've been preparing for this conversation for 50 years. While you thought we were a primitive species fumbling around in space, we were actually studying your weaknesses and building weapons to exploit them." "You're bluffing. No young species could coordinate an operation like this." "Are we young?" Yu Heijin asked. "We've been in space for over a century. We've been watching you for half that time. We've had generations to prepare for this moment." Captain Kim Do-hyun's voice came through Yu Heijin's communication device. "Ambassador, Phase 5 is ready to begin. All stealth ships are in position." "Proceed," Yu Heijin said. Throughout the Nexus Prime system, human stealth ships that had been hiding for days suddenly appeared on Council sensors. Not just a few ships, but dozens of them, positioned behind Council formations and near critical installations. The hidden weapons grid that the Council had built to trap visiting species found itself being destroyed by invisible attackers. Weapon platforms that had remained secret for centuries exploded one by one as human ships with advanced cloaking technology turned them into scrap metal. "This is impossible," Veltara said, watching the tactical displays show her hidden defenses being systematically destroyed. "How did you find our weapon platforms?" "The same way we found everything else," Yu Heijin replied. "We've been watching you for decades. We know where every secret base is located, where every hidden fleet is stationed, and where every weapon platform is positioned." On the Soul's Fury, Admiral Kang Tae-ho was receiving reports from across the system. "Sir, all Council weapon platforms around Nexus Prime have been destroyed. Enemy ships are in complete disarray. They're trying to reorganize, but without central command, they can't coordinate their movements. Any sign of their space around Nexus Prime exploded into chaos as 300 human warships dropped out of hyperspace simultaneously. The massive fleet appeared in a perfect formation surrounding the confused Council forces who were still trying to understand what had happened to their communications. Admiral Kang Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the Soul's Fury, watching as his carefully planned trap closed around the enemy. All ships, this is Admiral Kang. Today we end 3,000 years of genocide. Show them no mercy, because they have shown none to the species they've murdered. The Council fleet tried to respond, but without central command, their ships moved like a headless creature. Each captain was making independent decisions, and most of those decisions were based on outdated tactics that assumed their enemies would be terrified and disorganized. Captain Park Min-ho brought the destroyer Busan Rising around in a sharp turn, targeting a Council cruiser that was trying to escape. "Fire all weapons!" he ordered. Human weapons were different from anything the Council had seen before. Instead of the energy beams that most galactic species used, human ships fired. Solid projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. The Council cruiser's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered no protection against chunks of metal moving at nearly the speed of light. The enemy ship came apart like paper in a hurricane. "Target destroyed," reported Lieutenant Ryu Jae-sung. "Sir, their shields can't stop our kinetic weapons at all." "Excellent. Find another target." On the heavy cruiser Daegu Thunder, Commander Shin Jae-won was leading an attack on a group of Council destroyers. The alien ships were trying to form a defensive formation, but they were moving too slowly and thinking too predictably. "These aliens fight like they're on parade," he told his crew. "They're more worried about looking impressive than being effective." Human military doctrine had been developed through thousands of years of warfare against other humans. Every tactic had been tested in real combat. Every strategy had been proven through blood and sacrifice. The Council, by contrast, had been fighting terrified primitives for so long that they had forgotten how to fight a real war. The Daegu Thunder's missiles struck 3 enemy ships simultaneously. The Council vessels hadn't even detected the incoming weapons until it was too late. Captain Kim Do-hyun brought the stealth ship Incheon Ghost through the enemy formation like a shark among minnows. His ship was invisible to Council sensors, allowing him to attack with complete surprise. "Dr. Lee," he called to his science officer, "are you recording all of this?" Dr. Lee So-young was indeed recording everything, but not for historical purposes. "Yes, Captain. Every weakness, every mistake, every tactical error. We're learning exactly how to fight these people." "Good. Send continuous updates to the fleet database. I want every human ship to benefit from what we're discovering." The Council ships were discovering that their overwhelming numerical advantage meant nothing when they couldn't coordinate their attacks. Individual captains were making brave attempts to fight back, but they were isolated and unsupported. Admiral Theklar, aboard the Vextar Dreadnought Divine Purpose, was trying desperately to regain control of the battle. "Can we break through the jamming?" "No, sir," his communications officer reported. "The interference is coming from too many sources. We'd have to destroy hundreds of satellites throughout the entire system." "Then do it." "Sir, we can't locate them. They're too small and too well hidden." Theklar watched his tactical display, show Council ships being destroyed one by one. In his long military career, he had never seen anything like this. The humans fought with precision and coordination that suggested years of training specifically for this battle. "Sir," called his weapons officer, "the human flagship is approaching. Should we engage?" "All weapons, fire on the largest human ship." The Divine Purpose was the most powerful warship the Council had ever built. Its main weapon could destroy a city with a single shot. When it fired at the Soul's Fury, the energy beam should have vaporized the human ship instantly. Instead, the beam struck some kind of energy field around the human vessel and scattered harmlessly into space. "What happened?" Theklar demanded. "Sir, the humans have some kind of shield technology we've never seen before. Our weapons aren't penetrating their defenses." Admiral Kang Tae-ho smiled as the enemy's most powerful weapon failed to scratch his ship's paint. "Return fire. Show them what a real weapon looks like." The Soul's Fury's main gun was based on technology that the Council couldn't even understand. Instead of energy beams, it fired projectiles made of collapsed matter, each one weighing as much as a small moon, but compressed into a space the size of a baseball. When the projectile hit the Divine Purpose, it went through the alien ship's shields, armor, and hull like they weren't even there. The massive dreadnought simply came apart, its structure unable to withstand the impact of something so dense moving so fast. "Enemy flagship destroyed," reported Lieutenant Han Ji-woo. "Sir, the remaining council ships are trying to retreat. Let them go," Kang Tae-ho said. "We want survivors to spread the word about what happened here." Throughout the battle zone, council ships that could still move were fleeing in every direction. Their carefully organized fleet had become a scattered mob of terrified survivors. On Nexus Prime Station, Councilor Veltara watched the destruction of her fleet through the observation windows. Hundreds of ships, the pride of Council military power, were being destroyed by a human force that should have been overwhelmed and defeated. "This is impossible," she whispered. "No species can defeat the Council. It's never happened." Ambassador Yu Hai-jin stood beside her, calmly watching the battle. "It's happening now, and this is just the beginning." "What do you mean?" "This is only one human fleet. We have others positioned throughout Council space. While you were focused on us, we were preparing to liberate every oppressed species in the galaxy." Lee Min-jung, who had been quiet during the entire confrontation, finally spoke. "Counselor, you should contact your homeworlds. Tell them to surrender before more lives are lost." "Surrender? The Council doesn't surrender? Then you'll be destroyed," Yu Hai-jin said simply. "We've studied your military capabilities for 50 years. We know exactly how to defeat you. The only question is whether you want to make this easy or hard." Throughout Council space, similar scenes were playing out. Human fleets that had been hidden for months suddenly appeared near major alien worlds. The same jamming technology that had crippled the Nexus Prime fleet was being used everywhere, cutting off communication between Council forces and leaving them vulnerable to coordinated attack. On the Vextar homeworld, General Kolvesh was receiving reports of human attacks throughout the Empire. "How many fleets do they have?" "At least 12 major battle groups, sir. They're hitting our most important military installations simultaneously." "That's impossible. Our intelligence said they only had a few dozen ships." "Our intelligence was wrong, sir. The humans have been building warships for 50 years, and they've been hiding most of them until now. Captain Park Min-ho was pursuing a group of fleeing council ships when he received new orders. All ships break off pursuit. We have more important targets." The Busan Rising changed course toward a massive structure that had been hidden behind Nexus Prime's moon. It was a processing facility where integrated species were taken for cultural adaptation. "What is that place?" asked Lieutenant Ryu. "Jae-sung. According to our intelligence, it's where they take people before they disappear forever," Park Min-ho replied grimly. "Scan for life signs. The results made the crew sick. Millions of beings from dozens of species were imprisoned in the facility, waiting to be processed out of existence. Sir, we're detecting survivors from at least 20 different species. Some of these people have been prisoners for decades. Lock weapons on the facility's control centers. We're going to free every person in there." Commander Shin Jae-won received similar orders to investigate other hidden installations. What the humans found confirmed their worst fears about the Council. The galaxy wasn't just ruled by genocidal aliens. It was full of secret facilities designed to eliminate inconvenient populations. "Admiral," he reported to Kang Tae-ho, "we've found 17 prison facilities in this system alone. Millions of people who are supposed to be dead are actually being held captive." "Rescue operations are now top priority," Kang Tae-ho ordered. "Destroy the facility's control systems, but preserve the prisoner areas. We're going to need transport ships to evacuate everyone." Dr. Lee So-young was coordinating the rescue efforts from her position aboard the Incheon Ghost. "Captain, we're receiving communications from the prisoners. They're speaking dozens of different languages, but they all have the same message." "What are they saying?" "They're asking if it's really true, if someone has finally come to save them." Captain Kim Do-hyun felt tears in his eyes. "Tell them yes. Tell them the Council's reign of terror is over." As news of the human victory spread through the facility, something remarkable happened. Prisoners who had given up hope began working together to take control of their sections. Species that had been enemies before their capture joined forces against their captors. The revolution had begun, and it was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Ambassador Yu Hai-jin received reports from across the galaxy through. 3 days after the Battle of Nexus Prime, Admiral Kang Tae-ho stood in what had once been the Council's main conference chamber. The massive room was now filled with representatives from dozens of species, many of whom had been thought extinct for centuries. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all forms," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "The galactic community has been living under a lie for 3,000 years. Today, we tell the truth." Holographic displays filled the air, showing the real history of the Council. Not the peaceful integration story they had told for millennia, but the systematic genocide they had actually carried out. 47 species eliminated, trillions of beings murdered, an entire galaxy held in the grip of fear. "The Council told you they brought peace to the galaxy," Kang Tae-ho continued. "They brought death. They told you they protected young species from themselves. They were protecting themselves from competition." Ambassador Yu Hai-jin stood near the front of the chamber, watching as species representatives saw the truth for the first time. Many were crying. Others were angry. All of them were free. "What happens now?" asked Sektar, a representative of the Kalani people. His species had been integrated 300 years ago, but thousands had survived in hidden prison facilities. "Now, you get to decide your own future," Yu Hai-jin replied. "No one will force you to join anything. No one will relocate you for your own good. No one will integrate you out of existence." Counselor Veltara sat in restraints near the back of the chamber. She was one of the few surviving council leaders, and her trial would come later. For now, she could only watch as her empire of genocide crumbled around her. "You don't understand," she called out. "Without the Council, the galaxy will return to chaos. Species will fight each other. There will be wars." "Maybe," Admiral Kang Tae-ho said calmly. "But that's better than the alternative. Wars end. Genocide is forever." Captain Park Min-ho was coordinating the liberation of prison facilities throughout Council space. His destroyer Busan Rising was part of a massive fleet of human and allied ships working to free millions of prisoners. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Ryu Jae-sung, "we've completed evacuation of the Zealous facility. 12,000 survivors from the Mordani species. They want to return to their homeworld, but it's been occupied by Council forces for 400 years. Then we'll help them take it back," Park Min-ho said. "Send a message to Admiral Kang. The Mordani people are requesting military assistance to reclaim their planet." Similar requests were coming from across the galaxy. Species that had been scattered and enslaved were asking for help to rebuild their civilizations. And humanity was answering every call. Commander Shin Jae-won's heavy cruiser Daegu Thunder was escorting a convoy of refugee ships to the Anthari system. The Anthari had been the Council's original partners, eliminated when they became inconvenient. Now their survivors were going home after 1,000 years of imprisonment. "Commander," called his navigation officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Anthari homeworld. The Council occupation force wants to surrender. Tell them surrender is accepted, but they'll be tried for war crimes. And tell them if they harm any Anthari civilians, we'll show them what human justice looks like." The message was clear throughout Council space. The age of genocide was over. Anyone who had participated in the Council's crimes would face judgment. Anyone who wanted to start fresh would be given that chance. Dr. Lee So-young was working with teams of scientists from dozens of species, studying Council records to understand the full scope of their crimes. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. "Captain Kim," she reported to the commander of the Incheon Ghost, "we've discovered evidence of biological warfare against resistant populations. The Council didn't just kill people, they designed plagues specifically to target species that wouldn't submit." "How many species did they attack this way?" "At least 15 that we can confirm. Entire civilizations wiped out by engineered diseases." Captain Kim Do-hyun felt sick. The Council's evil went deeper than simple military conquest. They had turned science itself into a weapon of extinction. "Make sure all of this evidence is preserved," he ordered. "The galaxy needs to know what these monsters did." On Earth, Director Choi Yun-hee was coordinating humanity's response to requests for aid from across the galaxy. Every day brought new calls for help from species that were trying to rebuild after centuries of oppression. "Status report," she called to her staff. "Ma'am, we've received formal requests for assistance from 37 species. Most want help establishing new governments. Some need military protection from remaining Council loyalists. A few are asking, for technology to repair damage to their homeworlds. What's our response? Admiral Kang has authorized aid packages for everyone who asks. We're also setting up training programs to help species develop their own defense forces. Director Choi Yun-hee smiled. This was what humanity had been preparing for, not just to destroy the Council, but to help build something better in its place. And the weapons requests? Approved. Any species that wants to defend itself will get the tools to do so. We're not going to be the galaxy's police force, but we'll make sure everyone can protect themselves. The weapons humanity was sharing weren't the most advanced in their arsenal, but they were far superior to anything the Council had developed. More importantly, they came with training and support, not demands for submission. Ambassador Yu Hai-jin was meeting with representatives from the surviving Council species. Not all of them had supported the genocide. Many had been victims themselves, kept in line through fear and manipulation. The Morden people want to establish their own government, reported Elder Shale Noon, the crystal being whose species had been slowly dying under Council rule. We ask for human protection during the transition period. Granted, Yu Hai-jin said. But understand, our protection comes with responsibilities. You'll need to open your records about Council crimes. You'll need to participate in war crimes trials, and you'll need to help other species recover from what was done to them. We accept all conditions. Councillor Veltara's government was killing us too, just more slowly than the others. It was becoming clear that the Council's genocide had targeted everyone, not just the obviously resistant species. Even their own allies had been scheduled for eventual elimination once they were no longer useful. Captain Park Min-ho received orders to escort a delegation of human diplomats to the former Council capital world. The planet's population was in chaos, with different factions fighting for control now that the central government had collapsed. Sir, reported his communications officer, we're receiving hundreds of signals from the planet. Some are calling for help, others are threatening us, and a few seem to be offering surrender. Standard procedure, Park Min-ho replied. We help anyone who asks for aid, we defend ourselves against anyone who attacks us, and we accept surrender from anyone who offers it. The human approach to post-war governance was simple. Help those who wanted help, ignore those who wanted to be left alone, and destroy anyone who tried to restart the genocide. It was working better than anyone had expected. Admiral Kang Tae-ho was preparing to return to Earth when he received an unexpected visitor. Zektar, the former commander of Nexus Prime, had requested a meeting. Admiral, the alien said through his translation device, I want to formally surrender my forces and request asylum for my family. Asylum? I participated in Council operations, but I was never told what the integration process really meant. When I learned the truth, I tried to refuse orders. My family was threatened with relocation if I didn't comply. Kang Tae-ho studied the alien commander. What are you asking for? A chance to help rebuild. I have information about hidden Council facilities throughout the galaxy. I want to use it to help rescue more prisoners. Why should we trust you? Because I have children, Zektar said simply. And I want them to grow up in a galaxy where genocide is impossible. It was the same reason humanity had started this war. The desire to build a better future for the next generation. Asylum granted, Kang Tae-ho said, but you'll be tried for any war crimes you committed. If you're found guilty, you'll serve your sentence. If you're found innocent, you'll be free to help rebuild. I understand and accept. Similar conversations were happening throughout former Council space. Many aliens who had participated in the genocide were coming forward, offering information in exchange for the chance to make amends. Not all of them were trustworthy, but enough were genuine to make a difference. The final chapter of the Council's story was being written by the species they had tried to eliminate. War crimes trials were being held on dozens of worlds. Memorial sites were being established for the trillions who had died. New governments were forming based on principles of freedom and self-determination. And throughout it all, human ships patrolled the galaxy, ensuring that no one could restart the old system of oppression. Ambassador Yu Hai-jin stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime, now renamed Liberation Station. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from hundreds of species coming and going freely. No one was checking their weapons. No one was demanding submission. No one was being integrated. Sir, said Li Min-jung, who had become his chief aide in the new G.